Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here promptly so that we can start on time. I know that some of our eminent guests have to leave sharply within an hour, so I hope that we're going to be able to cover a large amount of ground. By way of introduction, my name is Nina Dos Santos. I am a 25-year veteran broadcaster who, for the last 10 years, was an anchorwoman at CNN. I also covered a lot of EU summits during my time, which gave me the chance to interview a fair few prime ministers, but very rarely do we ever get two on the same stage in a panel this full, including a government minister from the United Kingdom as well. And I think that speaks to the pull of this venerable institution, Chatham House, which has convened this crucial meeting on the Western Balkans, but also the commitment of Dr. Andy Hojai of King's College London that is also supporting this event today. So thank you very much to the team of Chatham House and also to King's College London. Without further ado, let me introduce our panel of eminent speakers. You may well recognize quite a few of them. We have the Prime Minister of Montenegro, Milojko Spajic, with us. We also have on my left here the Prime Minister of Albania, Rama. We have Natalie Sabanadze, who is the former Georgian ambassador to the EU. She's a senior fellow here at Chatham House at the moment. And we have Stephen Doughty, who is the UK Minister for Europe, North America and Overseas Territories. And last but not least, we also have Dr. Andy Hojai, who I mentioned before, OBE from King's College London. Just a little word about why we're here today. Most of you are extremely interested in this field and will know more about it than meager journalists like me, but we come together on the eve of the 11th edition of the Berlin Process Summit, which of course is going to be hosted here in the UK this week, so it's an exciting moment for shining a spotlight on the Western Balkans and also to take a health check on the situation vis-à-vis your relationship with the European Union Prime Ministers and where we head from here. Prime Minister Spajic, let's start with you because you have a time frame for joining the EU, which is a year earlier than Albania. What's your assessment of Montenegro's process towards that 2028 timeframe for EU accession? Is it on track?
I think the first time when we announced that we are gunning for closing all the chapters by end of 26, absolutely nobody believed us. And everybody thought that's absolutely impossible, that's not going to happen. But I think people are becoming less skeptical as we deliver, as the things, as the results pile up. So I think it became a realistic goal. Of course, still very optimistic, but completely realistic goal. And I think Albania's goal as well, as a matter of fact, it became completely realistic as well because Albania is progressing very fast and doing a very good job on European integration front. So I'm happy to see that, and we are happy to see some other countries doing well and like trying their best. And this is not really a competition. It's not a zero-sum game. It's basically that we are all gonna have benefits from more people from the region joining EU, becoming part of the same club, having same values, and being part of the single market. So this is what it is. I think it's very important that we obviously continue reforms. We see the European side as well is becoming increasingly focused on and to say so serious about Western Balkans really joining EU. So we see some really tangible things happening in the region, which is really encouraging. And I'm just hoping that it will continue in 2026 as well.
Challenges?
Obviously, a lot of challenges, but I mean, you presented us as prime ministers, but like we are prime ministers of small countries. So as average city in UK or the population size of 500,600,000 and 2.8 million people, it's like Albania is still a lot larger, but still relatively small countries, and we have to stay humble and realistic. And obviously, as a small country, you are lacking people. The public administration, you're lacking HR pool, the capacities to overcome a lot of challenges, a lot of reforms that are necessary to pass and to be implemented in reality, right? So this is absolutely the biggest challenge of small countries. Secondly, obviously, I mean, there is geopolitics there always. We know that not everybody is very happy about the fact that Montenegro, Albania, and others are progressing fast towards the EU, and you know, but obviously there'll be this is normal thing. You know, Balkans was always of interest to big powers of different you know, different conflicting interests oftentimes. So this is nothing new to us, but I'm very optimistic about, despite the challenges, we're going to make it.
Prime Minister Edi Rama, Albania has rapidly opened most EU chapters, but presumably there are still challenges that remain. Are you confident of your own target? As confident as...
Listen, we have a lot of challenges, but when we come to Britain, we feel better about our challenges. So...
why exactly is that?
So, what do you mean, what exactly? Don't bring me there now, because we have also the minister here. So he has enough pain, he doesn't need more from us. No, we have challenges, of course we have challenges, but as I told you before entering the room, we are in a period where Europe is behaving very well with us. So it's difficult to have salty conversations. So it's the risk to be boring is big, and the risk to make all these young people feel like they are losing their time with us by listening to our platitudes, how Montenegro is doing great and how Albania is doing great, is big. So what can I say is that overall, I believe in this moment in time, we are doing better than Europe.
Do you still have faith in the EU accession process and the ultimate?
What do you mean I still have faith?
Do you still, is it still an important goal for your country?
Listen,
would it be transformative?
I had faith when was nearly pathetic and ridiculous to have faith, but not just I. The very large majority of Albanians, more than 90% of them, they have faith in Europe and in the European Union membership, because for us that one is not anything else but exactly what it was for the founding fathers. So to finally be in a place where we have chosen freely to be and where we are safe. So this is for us a very firm belief, very firm conviction, and whatever we'll take, we'll be there fighting to be part of it. Now, since the aggression of Ukraine, thanks to Vladimir Putin, Europe woke up big time, and it's not only saying how important it is geopolitically to get the Western Balkans inside, but it's also doing its best to accelerate. So we were there also before, and we were working hard also before, and we complied with the criteria to start negotiations also before, which was confirmed 3 times in a row by the European Commission, but we refused. We refused exactly because the words and the deeds were completely separate. Now, Europe is fully on board, and I hope it will continue to be so. So finally, we will achieve this goal, and we will realize this dream, and then a new era, a new life will start with new challenges. Of course, challenges are always there and will never end, but at least we'll overcome this incredible obstacle between us and ourselves, I say, because we belong there, and we cannot stay out of that.
Thank you very much. To the UK Minister, Stephen Doughty. Obviously, the UK is hosting this Berlin Process Summit, which seems slightly odd considering obviously the UK is no longer a member of the European Union, but as we just heard from the 2 prime ministers there, you know, the EU is still an objective, an important objective. What can the UK contribute to that discussion? Why is it so important for the UK to have close relationships with the Western Balkans, and what could be achieved this week?
So firstly, it's a great pleasure to be with friends on the panel and also NATO allies. And I think that in itself also shows that this is a much bigger process than just those two countries' journeys towards the EU, and whether the EU accepts and whether they choose to join is of course a matter for the EU and them. But Europe is larger than that. We have shared challenges. We have shared challenges on security. We have shared challenges on growth. We have shared challenges on tackling irregular migration, on dealing with serious and organised crime, on energy security, on wider peace and stability, and indeed on dealing with the influence of hostile states like Russia within our whole continent. And that's why we wanted to host this process. It's why we're delighted to be doing so. And I just came from the foreign ministers part of the process in Hillsborough in Northern Ireland, where we had truly excellent conversations, both on good neighbourly relations in the region, on peace and stability, but also on some of those other topics. And I think what I've felt through this process, and I've been along to many of the meetings over the past year and a half since I've become a minister, is that it is a process of friends, it is a process of partners, and it's a process of common values and agendas, a Euro-Atlantic path, common agendas on peace and stability and security, and common agendas on delivering for our citizens. And why does this matter to the UK? Well, the Western Balkans has always mattered to the UK. We have had a unique historical role in the region, including, of course, in the 1990s and in some very, very difficult times. So I think many British people feel deeply connected. I have members of my own family who served in the armed forces in the Western Balkans, but we have new challenges for the future, new opportunities, whether it's in trade and connectivity. I think of my visit to Montenegro, where I saw incredible work going on between our law enforcement authorities on dealing with illicit smuggling into Europe, which is affecting all of us and affecting all of our countries, and the cooperation between our authorities on cracking down on those who want to do harm in both of our countries. I think of the wonderful work we've done, Eddie, with Albania on a number of different topics on growth, on migration, on so many other areas. And of course, I think of the diasporas, I think of the people who've chosen to make communities and homes in both countries as well. So I'm hugely proud of our relationship. I'm hugely proud that we're hosting this summit, and I think we're going to come up with some really, really good outcomes.
Thank you. Nati Sabanadze obviously is former Georgian ambassador to the EU. You're privy to, a really unique insight into the relationship between countries like yours, but also probably Moldova and Ukraine, which we need to talk about later on, that has aspirations to join the EU. What lessons do you think can be learned for countries in that region from the Western Balkans accession targets and plans?
Thank you, Nina. Since I'm no longer an official, I think I can add some spice to the discussion. Enlargement, and we see it on the example of the Western Balkans, consists of the interaction of two dimensions. One is the technical criteria, and this is what the two countries representing here are doing so well. They're considered to be the front runners. It's a funny word, but that's widely used in Brussels. And then the second dimension, which is a political decision and the political will. Now, you can satisfy criteria, and without satisfying criteria, there will not be a political decision. However, even if you do satisfy criteria, a political decision is not guaranteed. And I think it's important to look what are the obstacles from the side of the European Union, why it has proven to be so difficult, because this has been probably the most prolonged enlargement phase in the case of the Western Balkans, and that has affected credibility of the enlargement process and also affected the popularity of the whole process. I think North Macedonia is probably the most striking example where you have a real drop of support or belief that once this will be materialized. And I would highlight maybe three. There are many elements, but I would highlight three. One is not just fatigue with enlargement, which is something that is very often referred to, but there is a degree of disappointment. Enlargement has been the most successful, or considered to be, the most successful policy of the European Union. This is what allowed it to be the kind of normative, transformative power. But there has been growing disappointment with the results. We've seen some democratic backsliding among the member states, and particularly at time of the height of immigration crisis. there was quite a lot of acrimony between the old and new members. And I think that has marked that disappointment very clearly and affected the process. Another is internal reform. You can't enlarge without thinking what this would mean for the Union. And that goes beyond the famous unanimity question, which is not the same as consensus. By the way, unanimity means that everybody has to agree, while consensus means that somebody does not have to disagree. But that is beyond that how many commissioners is there going to be in the commission? How many portfolios? How the Union will be run? And finally, what it means for the domestic politics as well. And there is a tendency of rising populist nationalism. I mean, nationalism is always there, but I wonder whether member states are actually making enough effort to make the idea of enlargement popular among the public, because ultimately this will require an okay at the popular level, and this is something that also needs to be addressed.
Thank you very much. Let's hear from our final panelist, Andy, as well. You've written a whole piece about this, a book, isn't it, or a paper in particular, looking into the Berlin process and potentially what are your views on the shortcomings of EU policy? Just bouncing off of what Natalie was saying, is it fatigue, is it frustration?
Fatigue is for sure, and it's the political momentum and will. But in order to mitigate the process, or at least to offer the Western Balkans something, would make a lot of sense to give them access to the EU single market. And the best possible way, if we want to study how accession has worked so far, would be to give, once negotiation has started, to give them automatic access to the EU single market. You would allow for free trade between the candidate states as well as the European Union. But more importantly, you will allow the institutions to start applying EU rules and legislation and not allow it or sort of put the pressure once they become EU member state. So that would really help to phase out some of the sort of integration process. And in particular, now that there is a lot of pressure, what's happening with the European Union, that could really face some phases. So Ukraine is looking at it similarly. What we see with Ukraine, for instance, they're already doing that de facto, but why not offer that to the Western Balkans? When it comes with the Berlin process, when we look at some of the themes here, I personally would have liked to see more of a highlight on human rights issues, because when we talk about the Berlin process and how Merkel started, that was one of the key components. And I think the UK missed an opportunity here, because we have the 75th anniversary of the European Convention on Human Rights on 4th November, and two out of the three political parties in the UK have already said that they want to get out of the European Convention on Human Rights. So it would have been good to see that be spotlighted, although the summit will take place tomorrow, so maybe we'll have a look at the final declaration.
Could I ask the Minister to respond to that?
I would challenge that gently, because certainly particularly women's rights and violence against women and girls and sexual violence has been a key part of our Berlin process discussions, as has been wider civil society. And in fact, we heard directly from civil society representatives and young people's representatives who had taken part in their own summits and brought their feedback directly to the foreign ministers at Hillsborough and had a seat round the table. So I wanted to reassure you that human rights and civil society rights have absolutely been at the heart of the process.
Let me start out by taking some questions from the audience, because I recognise we've got about half an hour left. Time is tight, but
how you plan this kind of things here in this place? Because last time I told you, when you invite people from the Balkans, you should have much more time, because
Prime Minister, I understand
because
you're the one who has to leave at 3.
We have a lot to say, and we don't like to be stopped when we talk. And now you say we have half an hour. How is it possible?
Because I'm conscious that you have to leave at 3, actually, so.
No, because you have planned like that. It's not me. You know, it's,
Well, let's start out by taking some questions from the audience. Actually, I believe we do have also some questions from somebody who would like to answer the question firsthand. We'll take about 3 at the same time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter Gerg from Bled Strategic Forum. Let me try to put this diplomatically. Prime Minister speech, you said that there are some actors, some countries who are not very happy with the progress which was made by Montenegro and also Albania towards European Union. We know about these countries from the east of Europe, but probably there are also some countries in your neighborhood who are not exactly joyous about how quickly Montenegro and also Albania are progressing towards European Union, and I think we all know who I'm talking about. So
No,
basically,
we don't know. Say it. Say it.
well, it's a country north from Montenegro.
Mongolia.
So basically, my question is, what do you think how this can influence your progress? Is it going to influence? And if it is going, what are you going to do to mitigate the effects of this? And maybe the same question also to Prime Minister Rama. Thank you.
Please, Prime Ministers.
Thank you. I mean, you know, frankly, I would love everybody to be in the European Union. I would love everybody from the Western Balkans to be part of NATO as well. You mentioned NATO is a very important organization that we are part of, do a lot of very important joint work that we do on a weekly basis. So I think it's, you know, I would like the Balkans to be its destiny, basically, that kind of direction. And I'm sure we are going to get there sooner or later. In terms of the, you know, is someone happy or not happy, you know, you cannot make everybody happy in the world. You know, if you try to make everybody happy, you're not gonna achieve your goals. And as Eddie said as well, you know, in Montenegro, in the most recent polls, I've seen 79% of Montenegrins want to join EU. And these are the people that I'm responsible towards. And this is what I care about. You know, do I care about everybody else's opinion? Yeah, that's great. I can be polite. I can be like British people are very polite and, you know, smile on their remarks. But you know, that's their remarks. That's their opinions. We're gonna live with these opinions. We're gonna survive that, and that's it. You know, but I'm truly believing that whole Western Balkans, at some point of time, will be part of NATO and will be part of European Union. That's in our own interest. And I don't think there are countries in the world as interested to see the whole region in both NATO and EU like two of us. We have skin in the game.
Prince Rama?
No, listen, what Nathalie said is something we have experienced ourselves, in the sense that the process is binary. On one hand is fully technical, and on the other hand is fully political. But one thing is very clear: you cannot have any political support if you don't fulfill the technicalities of the process in every stage. But you can fulfill all the technicalities in every stage, and you can also face lack of political support. So this is very clear. So, and this is what practically, in a moment in time, made EU look like a very big hypocrite vis-a-vis all of us, because what they were saying was not matched by the reality of facts, and they were not delivering. And they were not delivering because because you know, Europe is a patient with 27 doctors. They were 28, but one of the doctors got mad and had to go to another cure, while the 27 have to fully agree 100%. And we had 3 times in a row, because of very few doctors, that we were not allowed to take another step. In this way, things have changed, because someone here, I don't know, who mentioned front runners, but I remember that there were different front runners some years ago, and Albania was nor a front runner, either a runner. So now we are told to be front runners, and I tell in every occasion, please stop, get this word out of it, because it fuels some resentment, you know, in others. It's like everyone does what has to do, and then some are in a better place in a moment in time, some are in a not so good place in a moment in time, but things change, and every country should have the chance to improve, and without being labeled front runner or back runner or whatever. So when it comes to the you know, unhappiness, of course, you know, we are Balkans, and without the jealousy, without the resentment about the other, without the, you know, the judgment of the other's success, we would not be who we are. But the good news is that we are not alone anymore in this world, because once upon a time we were the guys that were fighting and dividing and never, you know, finding ways to compromise within our countries and among our countries. But now it's everywhere like this. So now the Balkan Club has become so big, and the Balkanization of British politics and of French politics and of name it is now fact. So it's such a big and deep Balkanization that we feel like the adults in the room when we see how the others fight, you know, and how the others have different views even about the boats. Some call them small boats, some call them Brexit boats. And one wonders, why you left Europe? You left Europe because you wanted less boats, and you have more boats. You left Europe because you wanted more investment, you have less investment. You left Europe because you wanted more happiness, now you are depressed. So, you know, welcome to the Balkan Club.
Concretely, since you've raised that issue, even though since we're here to talk about EU, we are here to talk about your path towards EU membership, but you raised it yourself here just now. Are you somewhat frustrated, Prime Minister Edi Rama, when you listen to, if you just let me finish, when you listen to the headlines here in the UK vis-à-vis Albania and the role that your country could playing in the migration debate?
I remember among many crazy, hilarious, stupid things that were said during the Brexit, or how was it called? The Leave.
Referendum.
The Leave referendum. Yeah. Leave referendum was a poster with kind of very strange, scary birds that were coming from Albania to suck the blood of Britain. And the promise was, leave Europe and they will not come anymore. So guess what? They left Europe, and Albanians became a much bigger topic. Because I believe the problem is not the Albanians, or is not the foreigners, or is not the migrants. The problem is how to, where to find the scapegoats for this disastrous decision to leave Europe. It's a disaster. And so I don't feel frustrated, you said? No, I don't feel frustrated. I feel sorry, very sorry, you know? And I was telling before in another meeting that when someone named Suella, yes, when she came out and singled out the Albanians, and by the way, where is she? You know,
very good question, Eddie.
You know, just keep it in mind. You know, don't mess with the Albanians because if the Albanians curse you, you just disappear. And so I came here because I was asked to come from some very nice friends, Albanian friends here, and I felt like coming to just find her. But I found journalists talking about her and so on. And I arrive, we go in the hotel. First thing, a young man comes towards me, and the guard, British guard, tried to protect me, and he said to me in Albanian, "Welcome." I said to him, "Don't worry, he's his friend." And he was a waiter. And then the morning, we get out of the hotel, and I hear, Eddie Rama, from up. And the British guards were like trying to protect me. There were some Albanians, the scaffold. There, they were fixing the building or something. I said, "Don't worry, they are friends, you know." And then we take the car, we go to the Commons, and there is a big guy in uniform. He says to me in Albanian, "Welcome, Mr. Prime Minister."
But 48% of your population
they were all
lives
Albanians,
outside of Albania. So
No, my question was, if you take them out, who will do these jobs? Who are the Brits, the young Brits that will go in the scaffold up and will shout, "Here, here"? Who are the Brits that will be the waiters and will say, "Welcome, Mr. Prime Minister"? Who are the Brits that will be taking care of your gardens, beautiful gardens, you know? So I believe that even the migration is a total scapegoat, you know? It's not the migration the problem. Of course, there is inside this topic the problem of irregular, illegal, whatever, and I don't say that this is wrong, but you know,
No.
it's like it was leave, and now it's leave us, and what we'll do at the end?
obviously this
Not
is...
you, because you are Brazilian, I guess, no?
No, I'm actually English and Dutch.
English
So
and
you
Dutch,
see,
but
you
why
never,
you
you
have
never
this,
quite,
why you have this
you
Latin
never,
name?
you never quite know
But why you have
who people are.
Why you have this Latin name?
Married to a Portuguese. Yeah.
Lucky you.
Educated in French.
Lucky you.
There we go. Just to confuse us all. Very
Lucky
Chatham
you
House.
that didn't
We'll
marry
take
a
some
Brit.
more. Keep your hands up. I'd just like to give the minister an opportunity to respond.
Eddie speaks for himself, but in terms of the point you did come to at the end about the tackling the irregular, the illegal migration, actually this is a story, I think, of genuine success of cooperation between the UK and Albania in terms of reducing the number of people coming on those small boat crossings. Actually, it's also a success of working together, the UK and the EU, in the Western Balkans. So in terms of the number of people transiting Western Balkan routes to Europe writ large, many of whom end up at the Channel, that's down 47%. We've actually got cooperation agreements now with many of the individual countries, and there's going to be important discussions on this at the summit. So you know, the work that the UK is doing, the work that Frontex is doing, and actually it's one of the reasons why, as part of our new UK-EU cooperation, you know, we turned a page on a very difficult time under this government. We have a new security and defence partnership, which also focuses on irregular migration, and also one of the key topics we're now working on with the EU is our work together in the Western Balkans. So there is a positive story here to be told, and it's one of the reasons why we're proud to be hosting the leaders here these days.
Now we've had Peter Grock's question. Let's take a couple over there. I think is that Blaise in the back? Thank you very much. And if we could take Blaise, and then I think it's Mr. Sebastian.
Hi there, I'm Blaise from the Parliament magazine in Brussels. Question for the Prime Ministers. You might have seen this clip in Zelensky's show before he became a politician, servant of the people, where he gets a call from Angela Merkel who says, you've passed the accession process to join the EU. And he celebrates wildly, and then she goes, "Oh, I thought you were Montenegro." And the serious point is this, is that Zelensky himself has showed he's prepared to concede on the Common Agricultural Policy subsidy funds. He says Ukraine doesn't need to accept those, and he's also prepared to concede on voting rights in the EU institutions. Are you two willing to make similar concessions to get accession over the line? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And if you could pass the mic.
Maillard from Chatham House and Jacques Delors Institute. Nathalie mentioned the challenge for the EU to reform itself and the issue of unanimity. I wanted to ask both Prime Ministers to what extent you welcome or not the idea of, if you were to be member states, to drop the right to veto for a while, an idea that is being floated right now in the accession process. Thank you.
Montenegro will never give up any rights. Yeah, because they are a big country. I'm talking on behalf of Albania, which is a small country. Big country in quality.
I like
Right.
that.
Big quality. Quality of sun, of sea, of beaches. You know.
And a high quality because apart from Montenegrins, Serbs, Croats, Bosniaks, we do have Albanians. So beware of the Albanian curse as well from coming from Montenegro.
That's why they have success. They never mess with Albanians. Now seriously, this is something that me personally have touched long ago, and to the big surprise of my colleagues and to the big surprise of anyone else, I've advocated for that. I've advocated for two things. Number one, that the process could not be all or nothing, meaning until you are a member and you are just a candidate, you have nothing. And what I want to say with that is that the member states, and I'm talking about the member states around us, they have from EU as a contribution around 4,500 euro per capita. When it comes to us, the contribution is around 160, 70 euro per capita. So this is impossible. And we have advocated for that, and from a push we made, we succeeded to have some ears opened and to have this new growth plan and extra money to finance the reforms and so on, which is not at all comparable with the rest, but it's something different. Plus, what Andy mentioned, more access in the single market, the common payment, whatever it's called, because Europe has plenty of interesting acronyms that you don't remember, and so on. The second is exactly that. So there is a frustration, very clear frustration among the European members, and especially the big ones, about the equality around the table, with 27 that have to have consensus about everything. And I can imagine that when they see us, you know, they say, oh my God, you know, we'll have more troublemakers coming to the table and suddenly saying, no, 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 and veto our decisions, which to me makes sense. Not to veto, but to be frustrated. So I've advocated since a long time that getting us inside as members with a different status is more than welcome, you know, meaning no right to veto, no right to vote for as long as Europe will reform itself. I don't know when this will happen, because this reform has been the key word from so many decades, but as a matter of fact, it's very difficult to reform the mechanisms. So yes, we would fully agree, because at the end I know also another thing, that as far as we are concerned, when it comes to aligning with the EU policy, foreign policy, we may say, we have given ourselves the right to say what we think, but when it's time to decide, we are in line and we follow. We follow in NATO, we follow in EU, because at the end we are small. And it's not up to us to make the big decisions, which is good. And when there is a big fuck up, it's not us, it's them. And so nobody will blame us. When there is success, we are part of the success.
Let me interject here and just ask for Natalie's point of view as somebody who's worked very closely with the EU, particularly with regards to Blaze's interesting question there about what exactly would the EU like to see people giving up on in terms of accession funds.
So the question about joining a single market and having basically everything except for the voting rights. There is a model of this that already exists, and that's called European Economic Area.
Yep.
So the question here is, and the growth plan in some ways offers this kind of gradual integration. It wants to deliver results, to move from that position of being stuck. Of course, the risk here is that you may be stuck in that sort of penultimate phase and never really make it. And one point I also want to make about the giving up rights and unanimity. I think the principle of unanimity, the fact that everybody agrees, was really made for good times. And this was a very important attraction. I remember Kaja Kallas, who's representing a small state, saying, it's not easy for us to give it up, because this is where we feel that this is the union which is fundamentally non-dominating and allows everyone, no matter how big, to have a say. However, now we are in a very difficult period, and whatever is the fundamental source of attraction may be also the source of vulnerability. And this is very important now to deal with this as we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Very
This is a
briefly.
fantastic point, and I frankly agree that, or I disagree with Eddie. You know, I don't think we are
Montenegro.
mountains. Yes. So you know,
Small, but with two names, Montenegro.
Montenegro. Yes. So we regained our independence after 8 decades. Being part of Yugoslavia, various Yugoslavias. And we regained our independence in 2006. We are an old state from the 19th century, from way behind that, before that, 1,000 years, etc.
Older than
So
Greece.
older than
Yeah.
Greeks. So, but jokes aside, I mean, it's
Older than
sovereignty is very, very important to Montenegrins. And if you give up sovereignty, you ought to have some sort of control or control mechanism. You know, you give up on something so that you gain on something, right? So unless you have this checks and balance, then it doesn't really work out. That's my opinion. Then it becomes something like European Economic Area, which is like Norway, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, etc. These kind of, and it's totally okay as well. I mean, this is pragmatic exchange in which you don't need to, you're not forced to agree to everything that European Union does. You take majority of it, but you can still have some carve-outs. UK is also trying to do something similar, I guess. So I think this, if this is not the first model of full membership, then it becomes something like this. And then you have to live with Montenegro being the next Switzerland in the Balkans. I don't know if they want that.
They care so much about their sovereignty that they took 50 meters of beach from Amman Hotel and Amman shut down.
I'm learning
Right?
so much
We are
about
now-
Balkan humour and
Amman
irony
shut
here,
down.
Prime Ministers. Let's take some questions from the press. Is it Matt from the Times? Go ahead. We'll take about 3, if that's all right. The same 2 or 3 at the same time.
It's Matt Dathan from the Times. I'm sorry, this is a British-focused question, I'm afraid, not EU-focused. To the 2 prime ministers, correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, but neither of your countries are interested in this idea of setting up some return hubs to take rejected asylum seekers from the UK. Instead, what are you able to offer the UK in terms of the challenge that we are facing on illegal migration? And to Prime Minister Rama, you've had a few run-ins with Nigel Farage on social media. The bet you had with him, I think you invited him to Albania. Has he accepted your invitation? And also, if a reform government was in charge in the UK, would that make it easier or harder for Britain to remove migrants, failed asylum seekers and Albanian criminals to Albania?
Thank you very much, Matt. Didn't realise we were going to get 3 questions from you, 1, but let's take another one from another. Is there another member of the press there? No. Okay. Well, let me take a question from this gentleman over here, and I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gazim, freelance journalist. So my question for the panel would be about the issues going on with the Western Balkans, and especially in 2024, 22,000 migrants have been smuggled through the Western Balkans. And considering that the Berlin process will be discussing this issue as well, does the panel think that these are issues just for the Western Balkans, or are also issues for the UK as well? And do you think that the UK will be able to stop those issues going on? And another question, it's about the digital cameras. So we've seen that the British institutions have supplied some digital cameras for the Albanian-Kosovo border. Why is the UK government still supplying those materials to the Western Balkan countries? Can the Western Balkan countries themselves stop those illegal migrants? Do they still need the help of the UK? And of course, this means a lot of more money for the British taxpayers to be paid as well.
Let's ask the Minister that last question there about why the UK is supplying cameras.
What cameras you supplied? I don't know.
I didn't know that, to the Albania-Kosovo border, and
I mean, I
is
don't
it
know the
needed?
specific. I'm obviously not a Home Office Minister. I don't know the specific example you're referring to. But in terms of practical cooperation with Balkan countries, there's a huge amount of it, and between our law enforcement agencies and in terms of intelligence sharing. And I really welcome that cooperation that's going on, because ultimately it's a challenge that affects all of us, particularly when it's gangs and others involved in the trafficking. So, and you'll probably be aware we just launched a new sanctions regime where we're also targeting different individuals and organisations around the world who are involved in that smuggling and that trafficking and that vile trade. And it's impacting on all of us.
Briefly to both Prime Ministers, Matt's question there about return hubs. What else do you have to offer if you're not keen on cooperating on the idea of return hubs with the United Kingdom?
What do you mean, what else we have to offer? We have to offer sun. You don't have sun.
Great food.
We have to
but
offer
I mean, in terms of sort
fun.
of
You
strategic
forgot to have
security.
fun. We have to offer beautiful beaches, hospitality, diversity, everything you are missing here. So what else we should offer to you?
Which Nigel Farage hasn't yet accepted,
Right.
which takes me to the next question. When's he coming?
No, listen, now, seriously, a minister mentioned something which is fundamental, and it was a fight I've made for a long time with various British prime ministers, but they changed so many prime ministers in a very short time that it was impossible to follow up. And finally, we started with Rishi Sunak, and we continued with Keir and with the Labour government, something which is fundamentally different from what has been the case for many years, which is to fight the organized crime and the trafficking networks on the ground together, and to avoid all the bureaucratic channels of exchanging information and of waiting and of then blaming each other. And it has worked in a fantastic way. And not only it has worked in a fantastic way, but it has worked in a way that I believe it's sustainable. So it's not an operation. It's a systemic confrontation with this disease of traffic networks that traffic people. It's not about people coming freely here, but it's about people being trafficked. And this is a fundamental difference. When it comes to my dear friend Nigel, I have invited him. He has promised even publicly that he will come. He asked for a date that coincided with our Independence Day, and I said, Nigel, it's better we find another date, because then if you come, you have to be confronted with our national hero, and you look too small. So he will come. I believe that it's not up to us to decide who will be elected and who will not be elected in Britain, but at the end of the day, we have seen more than once that the business of the government is something totally different from the poetry of the opposition. So I don't see any problem when it comes to cooperate with whomever. And at the end, I believe that Farage is not the problem. Farage is a mirror of problems that has some theatrical capacity to be attractive, but the problems are elsewhere. So this is my answer. When it comes to the hubs or whatever they are called, I've said it and I repeat, never in Albania.
For Montenegro, never in Montenegro either,
I mean,
those
we are
hubs?
Montenegro is not part of the migrant routes through the Balkans. But
Is there
unfortunately,
anything that you can offer apart from that?
fortunately,
Rwanda is not part of the routes, by the way, but answer the question.
Unfortunately, our infrastructure is our highways, and the railway infrastructure is not good enough, not equipped enough to be a part of the migrant route. One of the reasons why we are actually not part of the migrant route. But one of the things I forgot to say to you in terms of the
if they
why
build for you the railway and the road, you will accept to have a hub?
Yeah, I mean, if they would, yeah, I would definitely accept it. If they would invest 10 billion euros into building railways.
They will invest whatever it takes,
Okay,
not
but-
10 billion.
So one thing
have
about
that line. Montenegro accepts the hub if we do the railway. And
Says
then Nigel
Albania-
comes
says
and he does the
Albania.
railway.
yeah, you're welcome.
Almost says
So
Albania.
you know, like
Why you want
Montenegro.
railway? You can get it. You can get them through
My
both.
friend, just a second. We are 100% CFSP aligned for 13 years. Okay.
What is this?
He is also, I don't know if he knows, but he is also aligned with CFSP for a decade, probably.
What is CFSP?
Common foreign policy with European Union. So we have shown in practice that we are voting as EU is voting, even without a benefit of being an EU member state. So suspecting on us that we'll start behaving differently once we become EU member states doesn't make sense, number one. Number two, for 13 years, we had 6 different governments with completely different majorities.
But exactly because we'll always vote like them, why we need to vote?
But you know, like, if you pass your sovereignty, that's what the Estonian ex-prime minister and Kaja Kallas, current the commissioner for so what she said is basically true. You know, small states find safety in this voting process, that you actually can vote and your vote counts. It doesn't go against your national interest. No decision is made against like some critical national interests. This is safety.
Don't continue this because you'll not be a front runner.
I have to say, I would love to go to an EU summit, and it's not often that you hear prime ministers jovially disagree and agree publicly like this, including behind the scenes in the EU.
Summit, you have to come when you suffer from sleep.
Yeah, no, I have covered a few in my time, quite a few.
Yeah.
Andy, your thoughts on where we are today as we sort of prepare to wrap this up? There are issues that we haven't yet discussed with the prime ministers, like, for instance,
many,
Russian, Chinese influence in
you
the
don't have time.
region. Apparently, I have been told by your colleagues that you will be extracted from the panel at 3 p.m., Prime Minister Rama. But if you're willing to stay until the allocated time of 3:15, we would be delighted to hear more, because as you can see, there are loads of questions, including many of them online, which I've been trying to incorporate them. But Andy, the issue of influence coming from elsewhere, if the EU itself isn't engaged enough, isn't keeping the process rolling enough, is that a problem? Because obviously Russian and Chinese influence to fill the vacuum everywhere around the world is a concern.
Well, let's keep it a bit simple what the UK can do, since the Berlin process is in here. Now, we'll have to first of all understand how China and Russian influence works. So they work with a long-term strategy where they support individual initiatives. So let me put it into context. In 2022, the Chevening program of the UK only offered 4 fellowships in Albania, whereas the Russian had up to 55 scholarships. Now, that's a huge pool, if you want, for the young people. It was the same sort of numbers across the region. Now, with the UK, what we did in partnership with the universities, we did manage to raise some funds, and now there are 14 fellows, so some of them are in here. So that's a clear indication that university partnership could do. But what that does is that you will attract more of the Western Balkan students and people to come to the EU, to come to the UK, And of course, they will have more of an affinity with the region, with the European Union, with the UK, and away from Russia, because we are sort of, since the war started, all of a sudden we are asking everyone to pull away from Russia, but we forget how many decades Russia has invested in their economy, in their education, in society, so that can't be overturned overnight. However, there is an opportunity now because the US has pulled some of its funding, especially when it comes in media spaces, in other places, and the UK could potentially help all the European Union. But it has to have a long-term strategy, so we can't just have every 3 years change the strategy and somehow we think that the influence will be fine. Whereas in Russia, you have 20 years leadership. In China, more than 10 years leadership.
Thank you very much. Let me take a couple of questions that are coming in from, we've got about 200 people who've tuned into this. We do indeed, yeah, I'll come to you in a second. I've spotted you and all of you. We've got a question from Suzanne Ebner, who's asking, could the EU's plans to further integrate Western Balkan countries as part of future enlargement raise concerns in the UK, for instance, about a possible increase in irregular migration through transit countries? I know that we've come through this, but I've been specifically asked to go to some of these online questions, Minister?
The exact opposite. I mean, by coordinating and cooperating together, we're reducing it. I mean, that's already happened substantially. I think it said 47% down in the last 2 years, let alone the bilateral work that we've done. And that's why we've identified this as a key area of cooperation with the EU. And I've already begun the dialogues under our new agreement that we signed in May. So I think there's a huge amount there that we can do together, and I think these things complement each other.
Nina, if I may just add to Stephen's points. There's one really important point in this discussion when we talk about organized crime and migration that keeps coming. Now, King's College, where I am affiliated, did a study, and in London alone consumes more cocaine than Amsterdam, Barcelona, and Berlin together. And in the UK, you have 3.5 million regular cannabis users. So this is more than £10 billion industry. Now, if you want to fight that, you should address the drug consumption. Otherwise, we are just walking in circles. So it's the same sort of policy that Theresa May tried, Boris Johnson tried, and we are sort of putting money somehow because we want to cut the inflow. But if you do not address it through social policies to reduce that, then you cannot sort this. Then we will always be working in circles. So that's quite an important element. So also the media in the UK should put a bit of a spotlight there.
Well, the home editor of the Times is sitting in the front row, so there you go. That's him. And we're going to the man behind you to ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Prime Minister Rama, you are a very straightforward person, so my question will also be very straightforward. In terms of EU expansion and towards the Western Balkans, especially Albania, what happens to the question of Kosovo? Because the European Union has made it clear that territorial issues need to be resolved before any further succession can happen. Thank you.
I don't see a territorial issue between Kosovo and anyone else. The territory of Kosovo is defined, and Kosovo is a republic, a new democratic state recognized by the big powers, and not yet recognized by only 5 countries in the European Union. So in that regard, I don't see the issue. On the other hand, it's Kosovo's job to push forward and to convince all the rest of its firm foot on the values and the principles of the democratic world and of the European Union. And in this, my opinion is very well known that I think to be successful, Kosovo has to forget Serbia, literally forget Serbia, and deliver in all the points that are related to the EU-facilitated dialogue, independently from Serbia. So just comply with every point and throw the ball on the Serbian side and move forward towards Europe by letting Europe to deal with Serbia and not let the Serbia issue become always an issue of blame between the two. But this is my own humble opinion, and of course I fully respect what the elected leaders in Kosovo decide for their own people and for their own country.
Okay, let's take 2 more questions, sir, and madam over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Laurent. I'm in Albania. Minister, I didn't come here by boat. I came with the evening program. I'm a researcher in politics, and I was very happy to be here and listen to the Prime Minister speak about how willing is Albania to become part of the European Union, and that we are 90% willing to become part of it. But there's a problem with Albania that a lot of young people are living in the country, and there is a paradox. 90% want to become part of the EU, but also what does it mean when they are living in the country? And it's not only a problem for our country, but it's also a problem in the region. And we've made great progress, like we made good progress. Whoever says that Albania didn't make progress needs to get their fact checked, but whoever says that Albania doesn't have problems or the region doesn't have problems, they also need to get that done. My question is directly for both prime ministers. In regards to the people that are living in the country, the young people, the successful ones, do you have a strategy to tap on that power? Do you have a strategy that will make them come back in the country?
Last question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marika Jolai, Western Balkans analyst based in the UK. I would like to take the story back home, membership of the European Union. So if indeed your 2 countries, Albania and Montenegro, join the EU on schedule that you were discussing today, the other 4 countries are going to be left behind. 3 of these countries, Serbia, Kosovo, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, have been facing a very serious political crisis in the last 12 months, especially Serbia, which is maybe on the brink of a civil war. So how do you see change in the playing field if it changes to 4+2? And do you see either of your countries having some kind of a capacity to actually support the 3 that are facing problems to resolve them? Not just for the EU membership, but, you know, crisis in some of these countries is crisis in the region. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the 2 Prime Ministers to say a final word on both those issues, brain drain and obviously, as you said before.
Wonderful, I mean, both wonderful questions, and you know, I'm speaking for Montenegro, but I'm sure, you know, Eddie will have the same stance. We are more than happy to help absolutely anybody in the region, and we are hoping that we can be a better bridge of EU towards the region, so that EU understands the region better and the region understands EU better, and that we can galvanize this process, and we can instill additional trust in the process. We can try to find ways how to work around some of the very difficult problems that Eddie just mentioned. You know, like some bilateral issues that are never-ending issues in the region, and with some pragmatic, practical solutions, and something that we would really love to be somebody who is an engine of the whole Western Balkans joining EU, versus us, like, because we are fully aware that EU is not complete without the whole Western Balkans in, and that's what we really believe in. We think we are not going to be fully stable countries and functionable and everything if not everybody is in, because all of our neighbors, we're not neighboring Finland, Iceland, and Norway. We are neighboring the guys that we are neighboring, and you know, we have to take care of them. You know, this is good neighbor policy, and also it's an essence of European Union policy. You know, the reason why the 6 in the beginning founding fathers got together was, we got so many things that were bothering us for, like, not decades, centuries before, but we have this wonderful future ahead of us. Like, why don't we collaborate with each other? And that was like regional collaboration first, and then started expanding into Ireland collaborating with Estonia. But in the beginning, it was the region, basically, collaborating with each other. So that's what we should do as well. And in terms of the brain drain, I think this is the question, and if we get this one right, we'll be winning elections for the next, for the decades to come. But jokes aside, I mean, the key thing is what we believe in Montenegro, what actually has helped Montenegro truly, is income, raising income levels, that, sustainable way, obviously, fiscally sustainable way, then providing for better job opportunities connected to the innovation industries, AI, and other industries that people can actually relate to and can start working with. Then also, finding the ways how to be accessible, how to be, the infrastructure, just the basic infrastructure such as airports, ports, highways, railways, etc. Connectivity to the rest of the world matters a lot. Obviously, like small things like SEPA matter a lot because it's so easy to transfer money now inside out of Montenegro, Albania, and rest of the world. Roaming next year, we're going to have free roaming, two of us with the European Union and vice versa. So these are all things that we think will make life way better in our countries, and we are hoping this would kind of have effect of young guys coming back. I was the one. Actually, I lived almost 20 years abroad, and I came back to Montenegro in 2020. So I want the people that they don't feel it's a sacrifice of going back to Montenegro or Albania, but they feel it makes sense for them to go back to their homeland.
Just briefly, Prime Minister Rama.
I have a different opinion in that, in the sense that I don't see the fact that you came here to follow your path and to become better through an education process that this country can give to you as a loss for our country. It's a benefit for our country. And we don't live anymore in an era where things are so clearly separated. It's much more interconnected. There is much more movement, and this is a movement that is much more visible even within the big countries. Even within Britain, there are cities, small cities, former centers of industries and of productivity that are practically abandoned by the young people who seek to come in London and to come now and to get everything now and so on and so forth. So it's an ambition. And of course, there is not a magic key to turn it upside down, and there is not a magic wand to make Albania a country where you can find the same opportunities as you find in London or in Berlin or in Paris or this or that. It's a process. It's a process. It's a trajectory that every country have gone through. We have to go through, and of course we improve. And there are more people coming back today than there were 5 years ago. But still, there are more people that are leaving than people that are coming back. This is obvious. So in that sense, I believe that we have to continue do what we are doing to improve the quality of life in the country, to raise the possibilities of getting better. Why you do this?
Because
all the
I'm
time?
just about to. We're about to rush out of time.
You are like all the time like
a vulture about to pounce. Final
So,
question from me that amalgamates some of what's been
And by
coming
the way,
through online.
I want just to say one thing. He didn't come by boat, and he underlined it. I don't know why, but our ambassador came by boat.
Did
and,
you?
he came by boat. He's ambassador. You came with visa, and you are nobody. You see?
Oh,
so so the boats brought a lot of people that had dreams, ambitions, and wanted to fight, and are honoring the British society. So Andy, I don't know if he came by boat or he came with visa, but it doesn't matter. So what is important is that at least our community of Albanians here is giving to Britain enough for British politicians that single out Albania to shut it up,
So,
to shut the F up,
all right, so
okay? And not mention Albanians for anything but very good reasons.
Okay.
Albanians are giving energy, are giving services, are working hard, are proud to be part of this large community of people, of this diverse society. And so whoever touched them should shut the F up.
except for me, because I'm going to ask one final
You are not
question,
touching them.
which is
If
finished.
you touch them, they will welcome you.
Right. I suppose the most obvious question is there an alternative to EU membership? Obviously, there is an administration in the United States that is quite hostile towards the EU at the moment. Do you, Prime Ministers, feel like you have to choose? Is there an alternative
Listen,
at all?
there is an alternative to the European Union if there is an alternative to freedom of movement, to human rights, to rule of law. Find me an alternative to these three things, and I can tell you there is an alternative to the European Union. Who wants freedom, all the freedoms, including the freedom of movement? Who wants the human rights to be always undisputable? And who wants rule of law to be always untouchable? Has only one alternative, the European Union, okay? Until United Kingdom will prove us wrong. But for the moment, it's proving us more than right.
Well, we have the Berlin Process Summit for that, which I'm sure we'll continue those discussions with the minister over there.
You see,
in the
Berlin Process is made to push countries further towards the EU. And Britain insists to have Berlin Process here because they miss Europe. They miss European Union.
Well,
They have this pain and they don't want to say it.
We haven't left Europe, Eddie, as you know.
Yeah,
and we certainly haven't left our friends in the Western Balkans.
Oh, you have voted.
I think on a serious point, that is.
If you have voted leave, tell me what you have left, because you voted leave.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank our Prime
But
Minister.
we are not going to give you our place.
I would like to
We're going to find another one.
thank our Prime Ministers, Eddie Rama,
so much.
Maroko Spite, for this spirited discussion. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Minister Sindauti and Andy.